Rudy, you sent a text in the group this morning and you were like, do we want to do a segment about ways that we can improve the NBA? So just real quick, just to get the gears spinning for all of us and kind of get us warmed up for today's show, I have 3 questions for you guys. Okay? And the first one isn't so much of a question as much as it is just a suggestion. What if you want to make the NBA better? 1 in like every 15 games, one of the backboards is sugar glass. One of them.
Yes.
And so someone will throw down and it's kind of like, it's almost like you're playing Jenga with the backboard a little bit. Every game, it's like you go for that first dunk. It's like, oh my God, you know what I mean? But if you're the one that shatters the backboard, you get, we want to put like a bounty on it. Like if you are the one who shatters the backboard to incentivize like yams, you know what I mean? 100,000? Get where I'm going with this? What do we think?
I think you just got to make sure your team is up, and then it's an automatic win because you can't continue unless you bring in a new court or a new.
It's
goal,
like the golden finch.
Exactly.
Golden snitch.
Snitch. Yeah.
No, it's the golden finch. It's a little bird that no one talks about. This is one of the things that was omitted from the movies is that you got the golden snitch, and then the real treasure is the golden finch, where you can only. It's like the lesser equivalent, you know.
Yeah, it's like the cheese touch. If you had the golden finch, it was like, that person's gay. Now they have to get out of the game or something.
Have we considered
like
making this a Quidditch podcast? I'm kind of over the NBA personally.
You know what's crazy is Harry played Quidditch for like 7 years, but he only played in like 6 games. Like he was a load management king. He took so many days off. He never played in those fucking games. He never went to practice. Like he didn't do that well in the games either. But he's like revered as. Anyways, let's get the show back on the road here. This one's kind of coming to me on the fly. Joe Mazzulla has talked about power plays before. He's like, look, in soccer, you get a red card, you're at a disadvantage for the rest of the match. He's like, why is it that if someone gets a flagrant foul, we can't do a dead ball, and then on the opposite possession, whoever, committed the flagrant, like you're playing 5-on-4 for one possession. I think, and then, once the possession's over, it's like timeout again or something like that. Might kind of slow the game down, but flagrant 2s don't happen all that often. So there's another one. Any thoughts on that before I move on?
I think we should incentivize fights personally, hockey style. But Alex, I think you have a more legitimate opinion than me on this matter.
To me, it's a more boring way of doing it. But like the technical free throw for a flagrant, that kind of accomplishes the same purpose as a power play. But obviously, shooting a free throw is significantly less exciting than like see if this team can score 5-on-4. Because to me, then you still have like the defense has a chance. It's like, yeah, you're down a man, but you could, even just the percentages of an open 3-pointer, it's like they could still miss a shot. Like you're not guaranteed to get a point just because you only have 4 defenders. Some teams play 4-on-5 for 82 games because they have such bad defenders. It's like,
That's actually a good point because it's a shot and possession. So like you could get 4 points out of a flagrant anyways in the odds. So I think you're right about that one. What's another one? So they're doing the All-Star game this year. They're like doing teams now, like a tournament style thing. I don't know how many details we have on that. It doesn't matter. It's not really what I'm here to talk about. My question is this for the panel. We spend so much time talking about the integrity of the All-Star game and all this stuff and how do we fix it to make it more competitive and to make the players care about it. And we have, NBA legends in the locker room last year being like, you guys need to care about this. Like for real. Will you guys just try? And then they didn't again. My question is this though. For as much time as we spend talking about it, do you two actually even care about
it? I think my whole thing has been, if it's gonna be what it has been for the last 2 years, then don't do it. Because to me, what it's been is just embarrassing. Like, no one really wants to watch just a layup line and like guys pulling from half court. It's like, it might be entertaining that's something that's entertaining for maybe 5 minutes. And then you're like, okay, well, there's still, there's 43 minutes left of this. It's like, seriously, I don't know. I just think if you can't make it something good, then just don't do it.
If you can watch the game from social media clips, maybe it's not worth watching, I think is that the take that you're kind of getting at? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Rudy, what do you think? Do you care?
I want to care. like so bad. I want the All-Star game to be something that's fucking awesome and really cool and draws my attention organically in a way that creates a sense of urgency where I want to watch it live and like make a whole event out of Saturday night and Sunday as well. But for me, it's really more about Saturday night. I don't really care about All-Star Weekend Sunday, and that is because the game sucks. This pickup style tournament potential, though, is there. I like it. I like where the league is. I like where their head is at in terms of like mixing it up. I would rather have a good structure that becomes a tradition rather than mix it up every 5 years when the novelty goes away with the new thing. So if they could just get it right this time and actually stick with it for the rest of my fucking life, that would stand a chance at making me care a little bit about All-Star Weekend on Sunday.
I just wonder if in 10 years, if it's going to take that long, however long it takes, right? Everything always comes back around. So like 10 years ago, Treyarch releases Transit as the first zombies map for Black Ops 2, right? Everybody fucking hated it. Everybody hated it. And they hated it for a really, really long time. But now, if you exist in certain digital circles, people are like, oh, remastered Transit, like bring back Transit. People are forgetting that everybody fucking hated it. Where I'm going with this is, do you wonder if there will ever be a point where there is a new generation of people consuming the game, or people who are our age who lived through it in real time and remember it very vividly, who look back on the target score era of the All-Star game and are like, man, we should fucking bring that back, even though everybody, I don't know, people didn't really hate it that much. It definitely added an interesting wrinkle, but it was just weird. Get what I'm saying? Is there ever going to be nostalgia for the target score in an All-Star game? Probably not, because it's an All-Star game.
Yeah, I think the target score itself is like, it's an interesting idea, but this is really... This all ties into the same thing of all Adam Silver tries is gimmicks. Like, it's just gimmick after gimmick after gimmick. Like, oh, dog, you got a VR headset? Guess what? You can watch games courtside now. It's like, dude, I can't even pay for my groceries. You think I have a VR headset? What are you talking about? Who is this for? Stuff like that. It's just like, we're going to have the Elam ending to the All-Star game. It's like, that's cool, but like they still don't really care that much. And people will point at the 2020 All-Star game, I believe it was, and they'll be like, well, they cared about the 2020 All-Star game. And I'm like, yeah, because Kobe Bryant just died.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
It was not the Elam ending that made them care. Let's be very clear about that. It was the fact that they were all understandably very like emotionally invested in it because
it had just
Kobe's
happened
passing.
too. It had
literally
just happened. Yeah.
So, like, it's not about, like, what gimmicks can we do? It's like, I don't think it's going to be a gimmick that fixes the problem. I don't think it's going to be like, maybe the structural change helps a little bit, but ultimately, guys don't really care because they don't want to get hurt. And I understand that, but my whole thing is, it's same with the NFL Pro Bowl. It's like, they play flag football now because no one wants to get hurt. It's just this fun little thing that they do. And I'm like, yeah, it's so different that it's like a completely different sport almost, to where it's like you can appreciate it for the novelty it is. You're probably not going to watch it, but whatever. The All-Star game to me is like, you can't make the guys care because they don't want to get hurt. And no one wants to be the guy who hurts somebody else. And I understand that. So my whole thing is, if there's not a reasonable way to get guys to care about the All-Star game, understandably so, then let's just not do it.
Yeah.
Because it's embarrassing right now.
You mentioned the VR headsets. Who is this for? I'm imagining somewhere in his basement, our favorite Silicon Valley lizard, watching the show on his AR headset, and he's taking it off. He's like, it's Kenny Atkinson in his basement being like, yeah, who the fuck cares about augmented reality? Who cares about virtual? That's just for losers anyways. Hey, Rudy, what do we have on the docket for today's program?
Today's docket is really just a open discussion about how we think we would improve the NBA as you've already started it. We also want to cover a little bit of the in-season tournament, just a little bit because it is going on. The championship, quote unquote, is coming up, and there have been some games, some courts, some plays. And then I also want to talk about the MVP race just a little bit because the Milwaukee Bucks right now have won 9 out of the last 10. Nikola Jokic has been kind of run away the best player in the NBA this year so far, but his team is about the same record-wise as the Bucks. And Giannis, you know, I don't want to make it all about one side of the ball or the other, but while Jokic is no slouch on defense, Giannis is a former Defensive Player of the Year. So there are levels to this, and there is something to talk about with the MVP race. Do we want to just get into that while it's at the top of our mind?
Yeah, let's do Giannis.
Let's do Giannis. Yeah. So Bucks, as I mentioned, 9-1 of their last 10. I believe he's also basically knocking down his jumpers at like a good jump shooter's rate. He's stopped taking threes, but he is working inside the arc and making those J's. Alex, you tweeted out earlier today a compilation that is like 6 minutes long of all of his jumpers inside the arc, I believe. What did you learn as you watched that on a loop all morning?
It's funny you say I watched it on a loop because I probably spent more time watching it than I should have. I want to put into perspective how many mid-range shots he's taking, because it's like you see, oh, this guy's shooting, he's shooting 48% from mid-range. It's like, okay, he's taken like 15 attempts. Who cares? Giannis is 4th in the NBA in mid-range attempts per game. That's ridiculously high. And for more perspective, league average efficiency is like 42% typically. It oscillates from like 41% to 42%. Giannis is hitting them at a 48% clip. DeMar DeRozan is hitting them at a 49.7% clip. So like he is not on the volume that DeMar attempts them, but he's like right there in terms of efficiency. And I'm like, okay, Giannis, I've stopped holding my breath that you're going to eventually be a three-point shooter. And I think there are some mechanical reasons why he's never going to be a three-point shooter. But the mid-range shot looks comfortable. Like, Giannis's shot was always very armsy. Like, it was all upper body. But it seems like his legs are doing what they need to be doing. He still doesn't get a ton of lift on his arc. It's a very flat shot. But that's one of the things I like about his mid-range jumper is that, like, you watch this compilation, and one of my favorite shots in the NBA is when a ball hits the back iron and just goes straight down.
Yeah.
That's like 90% of his makes, and it's such a satisfying noise. And it's literally like they told him, like, Giannis, you're aiming, just aim for the back iron, dude. And he's like hitting it every time, and I love it. But yeah, it's like the volume is at a point right now where it's sustainable. Typically, in any given season, Giannis is going to take from like anywhere from 90 to 150 mid-range jumpers a game. This year, he's on pace to attempt over 300 mid-range jumpers. So double the volume of any season he's ever shot them at before, and on an efficiency that not only is the highest efficiency of his career, but a genuinely elite efficiency.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I've been getting really frustrated. Like, this is maybe the first time in my life that I've had beef with him a little bit. Because he just won't, like, chill out. And the 2 times that we've played Milwaukee this year, like, he's always kind of had our number. Like, I'm not naive to that, right? Like, if the Pistons are playing the Bucks and Giannis Antetokounmpo, for the last, how long has he been good now? Like 8 years, like the Giannis that we know. He's been about 7-8 years at this point. I've known during that stretch, we play them 4 times a year. If he's suiting up, the odds are that he's going to give us 30, right? Like, I know that. But to the point of everything that you were just saying, it's different this year. So the first time that we played them, it was in Milwaukee. There was no Dame. There was no Chris Middleton. There was no Bobby Portis. We were up by like 20, which in the NBA, it might as well be like a 2-goal lead in hockey. You know what I mean? Like, it's not safe. You think it's safe. You're up 3-1 in hockey. You're like, yeah, we're fine. Nope. The damn Sabres blew like a 4-0 lead last night. Fuck, I derailed myself with that. Oh, and then he gave us, 57? He gave us 58 in that game, and he, like, single-handedly, and that was, by the way, at the height at the beginning of the season of everybody being like, oh, it's over. The Milwaukee is over party is officially here, like, pop the confetti. And then he does that, and he's doing the celebration where he's like, my dick is huge, and I'm like, okay. And then he plays the Pistons as of this taping last night for the final NBA Cup game, like the group stage. All the Pistons have to do is win, and they'd be 4-0, they'd win the group, and they advance. They lose, and it's because Giannis Antetokounmpo is Alex English. Suddenly, he's just Alex English. That's exactly who he is. And he, like, gets fouled on a 3-point attempt. Doesn't matter. He made all 3 of the free throws. He went to the line like 12 times, or not 12 times, but he had 12 attempts at the line. And so it's the first time that, and I think what it is because this is the first time since in 5 years now that the Pistons are also like looking like an actual team. We are officially at 9 wins. Last year, it took us until February 27th to get to 9 wins. So, like, in the last few years, I just expect to get rolled by them. But now I'm kind of like, well, if we're going to be competitive, I want to beat a team like Milwaukee. But it's because of Giannis that we can't do that. I think he's scored 20 in every single game that he's played this season. Every single game. He scored at least 20 points.
That, but I'm pretty sure you're right.
Yeah. Like, that's true? You got it in front of you?
He has more 30-point games this season than he does under 30-point games this season.
Holy smokes.
Which I guess makes it. He's averaging 32, so duh.
Yeah. He's the NBA scoring leader and a fucking historic defender, you know?
Yeah. So it's the juxtaposition of, well, he is my favorite player in the NBA, but also I have to play him 4 times a year. And so I'm just starting to, the novelty of that is just kind of starting to not like piss me off, but wear me down, I think.
Off the court, who do you like more, Jokic or Giannis?
Giannis.
Yeah, Giannis is, well, and
it's because he's horny,
I don't dislike Jokic. I don't dislike Jokic off the court, but Giannis is definitely more, I guess, fun. And Denver fans are going to get like mad about that because they're like, Jokic is like, I don't mind Jokic off the court. Like, I think I respect the heck out of Jokic for being like, dog, basketball is my job. Yeah. And I love my family and I love my hobbies. And like, when he was out for personal reasons because he had a kid and like he never actually said that he had a kid, they were just like, he's out for personal reasons and he didn't feel like he needed to share that at all. I was like, cool, that's your personal life. Like, very clear separation, like work-life balance, which, you know, talking about work-life balance when you're an NBA player, like, it sounds ridiculous, but you know, there's something endearing about that is the word I'm looking for. It's endearing. But Giannis is like, you know, he's a goofy guy. You know, I like Giannis. I've always liked Giannis.
And like, Jokic is fun. I just want to go home. Like, same, brother. Like, he just wants to punch out like the rest of us, like 100%. The horses are funny. Him riding around in those little carts. Like, if you go to Serbia with Jokic, you'll like get in one of those horse carts. Like, everybody that goes with him, you see pictures and videos of them like doing stuff with horses. It's very funny. He's a very, very charming dude. But there is more personality from Giannis, more like explosiveness. Obviously, yes, Rudy. I wasn't going to say it, Rudy, but you are correct that the horny stuff is very charming to me. It is very funny. And also, I got a pair. One time I did an ad. It was like a product review ad for some Bose headphones that Giannis had coming out. This would have been like 3 years ago. And when we were done doing the review, I got to keep them. So, and there were only like 500 pairs that were made. So I have a pair of like exclusive Giannis. So because of that, that's also part of the reason why he's one of my favorite players is because I got free headphones. Haha. But yeah, it's
you
definitely.
Sell out.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I was a Corpo Gorpo guy at the time, so I was just being a good soldier. That's all I was doing.
You gotta do what you gotta do. I guess Giannis's horniness doesn't really affect his standing in the MVP race. If it ended today, who would you vote for, Jokic or Giannis?
Giannis, because, well, you know, both teams did kind of have they were at the mercy. How do I phrase this? One of you will know what I'm trying to say here. Like, before the season, what were we saying about the Nuggets? They've gotten lapped. It's officially happened. It's like, what even is this experience anymore? Like, Jamal Murray stock at the beginning of the season at an all-time low. He's playing hurt in the Olympics, but everybody would have thought that he was a Make-A-Wish kid the way that everybody talked about him. He was hurt the whole time. The way he closed out last season left a bad taste in people's mouths. You lose KCP, and it's just kind of like, so what are the Nuggets doing? So what's going on with them? And then they're good, and it's like, oh, okay, so they're still good. And then the Bucks, it's the same thing where people, like, kind of like what we just talked about. People are like, okay, so this experiment just didn't work, and people are like, oh, Giannis is going to leave. And then, like you said, they win 9 of their last 10. Giannis has scored 20 points in every single game this season. And he's an Alex English, DeMar DeRozan mutant. And so narratively, they're kind of in the same boat. You know what I mean?
Right. Both teams are at 11 wins, both by far and away the best player on their team. And if you consider Jamal Murray not being himself and Chris Middleton being totally absent, about equal, then they also have that same factor swinging for them.
So that's something I want to point out.
Jokic has scored 20 points in every game. He is not. He started the season with a 16-point performance.
Oh.
Can I say something about your point about Chris Middleton and Jamal Murray?
Of course.
So it's a little different because Giannis doesn't just have Chris Middleton. Let's be very clear. He also has another guy on his team named Damian Lillard. So
right.
I don't think Jokic has a Damian Lillard, which all of this is to say, I know we're very fickle as NBA fans and our MVP picks oscillate throughout the entire season. Understandably so. Basketball is a dynamic sport. It's an 82 game season. A lot of stuff's going to change. I am still going to say Jokic would be my pick. However, the Bucks are doing enough to where I'm like raising an eyebrow and I'm like, Giannis, I'm almost ready to say he's having the best season of his career. I'm already saying it's like probably top 3 or 4 right now. Not only is the shooting like, whoa, this is real. The playmaking is another thing. I'm diving into it in a video that should be out today. Or I guess like multiple days ago whenever this is uploaded. I don't know. Point being, Giannis is doing more than I think he's ever done. This maybe isn't his most dominant season on both sides of the ball, but I think it's his most well-rounded season on both sides of the ball. That's kind of the vibe that I've gotten. Some things that are worth pointing out about the Bucks record, and I'm not taking anything away. You play who's in front of you. I believe they've only played one over 500 team. It was the Rockets. They beat the Rockets. The Rockets are a very good team. I believe the 2 seed in the West. So I'm interested to see how much of this holds up for the Bucks going forward against some of the heavy hitters. And I think they will look better because it's not just Giannis being Giannis. It's Dame looking more like Dame. It's Taurean Prince being one of the most efficient 3-and-D guys in the league. It's AJ Green getting more of an opportunity and being one of the best off-screen shooters, having a really nice 2-man game with Giannis, and also defending his butt off. Gary Trent Jr.'s shot is looking like it's starting to return to form a little bit. So I think this improvement for the Bucks is real. That being said, I do think Nikola Jokic has a little less help than Giannis does. I don't think that's controversial to say. But the Nuggets are on thin ice because they're starting to slide a little bit. I'm pretty sure they're on a losing streak right now. Let's see. They won their most recent game, but they're 5-5 in their last 10. So, you know, it's easy to look at the Bucks and be like, they're 9-1 in their last 10. The Nuggets are 5-5. It's like, yeah, Giannis is the MVP. But look, I'm going to wait a little bit before changing my pick because obviously the way too early reaction was Jokic for MVP. I'm going to hold on to that for now. But Giannis is knocking at the door for sure. No doubt about it.
Can I pivot for just a second?
Of course.
And ask hey, it's Explain It to Nick. That's the segment. We're bringing it back. This week's edition of Explain It to Nick. So Paul George got hurt again against the Pistons. That happened. What's going on with them? Are they like after the team meeting? How have they been? Do they still stink, or like is Embiid alive? Like what's going on with them? Has he gotten hurt? Like what's the scuttlebutt on the Philadelphia 76ers post team meeting? I have no idea.
They've won 2 in a row.
Okay, all right.
Whoa, what does that mean to you? I don't know.
Yeah.
Your mileage may vary, but
yeah. Jared McCain's still awesome. I do know that. He and Tyrese Maxey are like, oh, look at these guys.
Dude, this morning I opened the TikTok app to scroll for the first time in like a year just to go to Jared McCain's profile and see what's going on over there. A lot of Drake.
Yeah, like a lot of Drake.
Like it's like his favorite artist has got to be Drake. And if it weren't for that, I think I would be romantically in love with him. But because of that single red flag, I'm going to take him off my top 10 favorite players ever list. But shout out to him. I do love me some McCain. He's on my fantasy team.
Did that become wow? Look, good foresight by you to pick him up. Was that in the draft that you got Jared McCain?
No, I got him after the draft, and then actually had to drop him at one point early in the season, and then picked him back up. No one fucking scooped him up, but sure enough.
Did the Drake thing become a red flag this year?
I think the flag it went from like a standard issue flag that you can mount on a porch, you know, with like a little stick, to like one of those flags that's so large, it actually takes a large amount of wind, like disproportionate to its own size, like a massive gust of 20 miles an hour plus to actually make it whip in the wind that you see at like a car dealership in the middle of fucking nowhere, or like a high school with way too much money to blow. You know, like one of them flags. The flag went from average American red flag to, you know, God bless America red flag.
Okay, I just have to add, just as a follow-up. So what does that make Kendrick then? If you're a Kendrick stan, you open your Spotify Wrapped, and you've spent 2,000 minutes listening to Kendrick Lamar this year. What is that? What color is that?
It's a beige flag. Also depends on who you are. Yeah, you got to look that one up on TikTok. The girls are saying beige flag for the past few years. Last I checked.
Is that the new demure?
I think we're past demure and
okay, good.
And whatever the other word is. Speaking of Spotify Wrapped, mine was embarrassing. I didn't even post it on Blue Sky for my 200 followers to see on
Dog,
there.
I was gonna. Oh my gosh, it's so funny. Okay, so on the Spotify Wrap thing, I still haven't opened mine. I've been waiting all day to do it. I'm doing it for content. I just haven't had a chance to do it. So I'm gonna do a screen recording for the coping hour, and I'm gonna include it to wrap up the show. So I have to wait until my son goes to sleep tonight to be able to record 20 minutes of me doing it. So I've been waiting all fucking day to look at it, and it's gonna be a lot of Drake on there. I'm just telling you, it's gonna be a lot of Drake on there. What's gonna suck is the Kendrick Drake thing is just gonna dominate my Wrapped, because I was just going back and forth with whatever they were putting out. So that's largely what it is, right? But anyways, I was going to ask you guys. So Rudy, you already answered it. Alex, are you on Blue Sky?
Blue Ski? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, is that what they're calling it?
Yeah, all the kids are out here skeeting on Blue Ski.
Yeah, I'm on Blue Sky. I use that more for unfiltered thoughts, where I'm like, if I said this on Twitter, I would have a bunch of icy D-Lo seasons in my replies getting mad at me. I think I said that the Timberwolves had their first power of friendship game against the Lakers, and I knew if I tweeted that or X'd that, whatever it is, if I tweeted that, I would have had a bunch of Lakers fans being like, we're on the second night of a back-to-back. Shut up. It doesn't matter. But I was like, I can get this off on Blue Sky, and I'm not going to have to deal with a bunch of weirdos.
Hey, while we're talking about the Lakers, Rudy, you got to answer for this, all right? Because the guy whose name is on the banner is not here. I didn't watch the "Is LeBron washed?" video. I didn't watch it. But I got to ask you, was the take eventually, no, he's just fucking 40 years old?
I feel like that's kind of the same answer, right? That's kind of an informed yes. If you just say, no, he's not washed, he is just 40. That's a no. That's a yes that starts with the word no. An
informed yes is a very good way to frame it. My problem with it is to me, it denotes that he has fallen off. I'm like, I don't think you've fallen off just because the dude's been on HGH for 20 years. And okay, so he turns 40, which by the way, didn't he just have a triple-double a week ago? Didn't he just do that? And then I did see something. I was watching Get Up the other day, and I did see on the bottom ticker that he had at that point missed 19 consecutive threes. And I was like, oh, maybe that's what they were talking about in the video. Maybe that's the point that they were trying to make. But he did also extend his 10-point game streak to 1,271 or something at the 11th hour.
Some unfathomable number that doesn't actually exist. And to your triple-double point, it was 3 games prior where he had a 16-point triple-double on reasonable efficiency, I guess.
Huh.
No free throws, no made threes, only 2 attempted, 8 of 18
ethical buckets.
Floor. Yeah, an ethical, a Josh Hart special, if you will.
There it is.
Yeah, so is LeBron washed? I don't think he's washed, but I think he's entering his Chris Paul Rockets era, where it's an injury or two here and there, it might make a serious decline start, but we thought this fuckery would be over by now, and yet it's still somehow continuing. Asterisk, it's not quite as impressive. The film breakdown was a little bit of, man, look at him get this good luck and it just not go in, or man, look at him almost plow through this defense like we've seen him train through guys before, and it just not work this time. It's oh, yeah, shocker, the 40-year-old version of LeBron is not as athletic as the 27-year-old, 32-year-old, whatever,
Right.
Is it news? Probably not. I just think it's worth reporting that he had one of his worst games ever in a stretch where he hasn't been doing that great.
I think he's just so. Yes, I agree. He's lost some semblance of a step because he's 40 or about to be. That being said, I think like a big part of this is he's just tired. Like he has not missed a game yet this season. Like if you're not getting in, listen, I understand there's a ton of discourse about load management and players taking games off, and he wants to play all 82 because, you know, like there's people who spend their hard-earned money because they want to see LeBron. And I understand that. But there does come a point where like you look at yourself in the mirror and you say, I'm 40 years old. Maybe playing in every game not only isn't good for me physically, but it's also not good for my team because I'm not able to contribute at a level that helps my team stay afloat because I'm just like physically tired. Did I say something that's like, I'm concerned that I'm being a hater right now?
I just love the take that for the first time in the history of North American sports, a guy playing all 82 is actually hurting his team. That is I fucking love that take. Like, this guy needs to play less.
Well, it's crazy.
I get what you're saying. No. I totally get what you're saying. It's just the framing of it. If you read that in like in a headline, AlexHoops, quote, LeBron needs to play less so the Lakers can win more. It's just hilarious in a vacuum. Even if when you contextualize it, I totally understand what you mean. It's just very, very funny.
Right. So here's... on that same note, here's a wild stat. LeBron has been on the floor for 1,520 possessions this season. In those possessions, the Lakers are minus 7.5. When he's off the floor, when LeBron is off the floor in 476 possessions, much smaller sample size to be sure, plus 15.6.
Oof.
And I think a big part of that is like, get the dude some rest. Like, he's missing his shots because he's tired. He doesn't have his legs under him, and you need that to be a reliable shooter. I'm gonna have to cut my camera out for a second. My grandmother-in-law is about to walk in.
Okay, that's fine.
All right, I guess I'll just cut this out.
To your point, though, it's not even just that he's playing every single game. It's that he's playing a lot, like by far most of every single game as well. During his recent stretch, ever since the winning streak stopped, because they at one point had a pretty serious winning streak going, he's been playing about 35 minutes a night. And for a guy who is 40 and in a league where Steph Curry's playing 29 minutes a night, Jaren Jackson's playing like 27 minutes a night, you don't need to have your superstar play 35 minutes just so you can go 500.
You slipping Jaren Jackson Jr. in there?
That's my MVP vote. That's how I'm gonna muddy up the conversation. I'm gonna vote for Jaren Jackson for MVP. So in our world here, if the season stops today, Giannis and Jokic have to share.
You know what? My biggest problem with the Lakers has been this year is that I'm kind of I need JJ Redick to chill out a little bit because he's starting to be like really endearing to me and really fucking funny.
No.
And like
no.
I know, dude. I'm falling for it so hard, and I need to not do it. Like, I think it was maybe in the last show that we did like 2 weeks ago, we did a thing at the end where we were like, you know how sometimes you can clock propaganda in real time, and like you can reject it and be like, I'm not going to be conditioned, or you're like, no, I have time. Like, let's fucking do this. Let's rub my hands together. Like, yeah, let's get conditioned. I keep seeing all of these great sound bites from JJ. Who was it? Austin Reeves hits a corner three to close out the half with Wembanyama in his face. Hey, Wembanyama? Victor Wembanyama. Yeah, I said it right.
Yeah, you're good.
Which is like, in and of itself is nuts. The still of like his hand, like it was that close. Victor Wembanyama on the closeout, like it. Anyways, and so they immediately, JJ, that was a pretty cool three from Austin Rivers, wasn't it? And he was like, we fucking suck tonight. I hate this team. He's like, we can't make anything. We can't execute. We fucking suck. And the reporter's like, back to you guys in the booth. It was just funny. Like, he takes it so seriously. And I guess I didn't expect him to, I don't want to say I didn't expect him to care this much. But, and then was it Richard Jefferson that was in the booth? Maybe? This is a couple weeks ago. And JJ had to do one of those little sideline things before a game in the middle of a quarter, something like that. He puts on the headset and he's just looking into a camera up in in the media bay or something. And he was just like, hey, I fucking hate that I have to talk to you guys. Like, seriously. He was just like, I hate having to do these media obligations. I hate these. And he's just funny. He's just funny, and I need to stop falling for it because and the Lakers don't stink is the other piece of this. They don't stink. So I don't know. I would like it if he did something unlikable.
For a team with Anthony Davis and LeBron at the helm, they kind of should stink. Like, this isn't the best team, but Rui Hachimura is knocking down like 80% of his shots. I think they have a couple other guys who are still, even through a full quarter of the season, kind of overperforming how you expect them to typically shoot. So they're probably going to end the season with pretty good shooting numbers, even if they go through a major slump. But this team does look better than expected, again, even though they have potentially, depending on who you ask, 2 top 5 players. LeBron, obviously not that guy right now, but I think you ask the casual fan who the top 5 players in the NBA are, they're just going to say LeBron James before they say
I don't know.
Jason Tatum.
That's an interesting question.
I don't think
not saying
it's right. Say that.
I don't know. It's an interesting question. If you just ask the average person who tunes into maybe 10 games a year and they just consume it through social, would the average that person say, like, where does he rank? I don't know about top 5. I think I agree with Alex, but I don't disagree with the prompt, like, that someone who doesn't know may still put him and like Kevin Durant in there too, or like Steph Curry in there too, just because to that person they know they're still in the league, even if it's not true. You know what I mean?
I mean, this has been like a big problem, quote unquote problem, that people are kind of addressing in terms of like, it's the early season, what's there to talk about, let's generate some stories type of thing, where it's like, what's the next face of the league? This is the type of conversation we have about this time in the calendar every freaking year at this point, is because everyone in the media knows that, like, the LeBrons, the KDs, the Currys, they're phasing out. Again, Curry, less than 30 minutes a game. KD, hurt half the time, and his teams are a little funny. Like, LeBron, he's like a season away from a retirement tour. If he doesn't retire after this upcoming season, it'll be the following season.
It'll be next year.
I'd be shocked, honestly, if LeBron played until he was like 45. I used to say all the time, like, oh yeah, he's going to play until he literally physically can't. But at this point, I'm like, it sure feels like a retirement tour is coming over the hillside there. He's just got to rack up as many ultra long-term unbreakable records as possible and then call it quits so he can pretend he's the GOAT. But yeah, I think the average NBA fan, like the casuals, still going to put Steph and LeBron in their top 5. And is that a problem? I don't know. It's not the biggest problem the league has, in my opinion.
Well, go ahead, Alex.
I think, like, top 10, I think most people, like, your average casual fan, like, most people would have him top 10. But I don't think you'd get a ton of top 5 answers anymore. Because, like, I think the casual fan is more likely to put somebody like, say, I think they're more likely to put somebody like Anthony Edwards in their top 5, quote unquote, mistakenly, quicker than they would put like a LeBron in there. Because, like, I think the young crowd is coming up on those guys like Wemby, like Anthony Edwards, where, like, they don't really know that many other players. Like, yeah, they know LeBron, but they also recognize, like, LeBron's 40. And so they're going off of the players that they're familiar with that have been pushed lately. Like, Anthony Edwards has been a player that's been pushed a ton lately. Ja Morant's a guy that, like, when I talk, my wife is a middle school teacher, and, like, when I tell them what I do, they're like, who's your favorite player? And I tell them, and then they're like, oh, my favorite player is so-and-so. I get a lot of Jaws. I get a lot of Anthony Edwards. I get a lot of Lucas. I get a lot of Stephs. I get a lot of Wembys now. But LeBron's a name that, like, I think the younger crowd is less and less, I guess, like, eager to, latch onto.
Crown. Yeah.
Yeah.
You said, like, the Jaws of the world. And it took me about 15 seconds to clock who the fuck you were talking about, because I thought you said Jaws, Jaws. But then I was like, oh, he's talking about Ja Morant. But then I was like, if there was an NBA player whose nickname was Jaws, who would that be? Because that's actually kind of a fun. First of all, it's got to be Victor, right?
I'm trying to think.
LaMelo's got some chompers, but he's not a Jaws.
Was Draymond Green?
There it is. There it is.
That's it. That's the answer.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
if anyone's gonna bite you out there, unfortunately,
Because
it's
like
Draymond Green.
Yeah. What's an animal that puts you in a chokehold?
like a boa
cobra.
constrictor,
Like anaconda, yeah.
or an anaconda. Yeah.
Well,
Cobra doesn't do that. I'm bad at snakes. That's where we're missing Jacob. He's the snake guy of the podcast.
Give us
is he
5.
into snakes?
Dude, he's a huge reptilian.
So he can't give us.
Is he really into
Excuse me,
snakes or
reptile.
reptilians as a whole?
He watched a lot of Crocodile Hunter as a child.
Because to me, there's a difference between being a snake guy and being just like a general like lizard guy as a whole.
Agreed.
There was a dead lizard on the steps to come up to our office, face up. And I had come up and down a couple times, not thought twice of it. I was like, someone's going to kick this off this porch eventually. And then Jacob comes in the office and it's like, do you see that dead lizard? It's a non-native species. That's someone's pet lizard.
That's an exotic. Someone trafficked this lizard and they fucking killed it and they put it on our doorstep.
That's imported.
That's an imported salamander. Because it's like if you want to do the Jaws thing, Victor Wembanyama would be cool. Is it cooler if it's like a little dude? Like Drew Holiday's not little, but you know what I mean? Like if it's like not a Nate Robinson, but you get where I'm going with it.
In his prime, I think Jose Alvarado fits this bill.
Oh,
because
I
he
like
would
it.
kind of lurk behind you. He would do those
I like
out of bounds steals. I think he's the answer. But only like 3 years ago. He's hurt all the time now. I don't know how he's doing this year, honestly. I haven't watched a ton of Pelicans because the Pelicans are...
He was
Jose Alvarado, J.A. We just need to figure out...
yeah.
Jose Alvarado wins shit. Jaws. It's an acronym. So anytime in the future, I like this bit. It's not even a bit. I think we're all being sincere that Jose Alvarado is now Jaws. We've anointed him Jaws.
I'll write my connection at Basketball Reference to update their nickname sheet because we are media members and we are nicknaming him this. So like that's what it makes it count for Basketball Reference.
Yeah,
Guys,
I think we should.
He
What?
made 7 of 7 from 3 back in early November.
Yes, he can
Who
shoot.
knew?
No one talked about it. And it was overshadowed by Elfrid Payton's 21 assist game.
And then they released him,
They said, no thank you.
Cold world.
which means a
Too
trade
many
is
assists.
happening, I think. That's the only reason I could assume. Is it really? Like, right? That's...
I bet because like the Brandon Ingram stuff going on where he's with Clutch now, I would imagine that waiving Elfrid Payton was probably to facilitate whatever they're going to do or to like free up financial crap.
All right, Alex, let's do it. What are the Thunder going to give away for Brandon Ingram?
I don't want Brandon Ingram. I love Brandon Ingram. I don't want him on my team.
Just not for you, huh?
Well, it's like, okay. I was thinking about this while I was pooping the other night. This is what goes through my head.
Like you do.
I was like, are the Thunder going to be one of the, like, in the modern era, one of the first proofs of concept of, like, and I know Jalen Williams' three-point volume has gone up this year. Shay's has as well. So it's not necessarily 100% accurate, but predominantly inside the arc scores, right? Can the Thunder be one of, like, the first teams in the modern era to win a championship built around 2 predominantly inside the arc scorers? I was thinking about it. I was like, what other teams have done that recently? Because you look at the teams that have won a championship and it's like, well, the Nuggets, they had Jamal Murray was the second option and he's, you know, all over the place. Threes, mid-range, what have you. Michael Porter Jr., threes, whatever. The Bucks.
Spurs?
Yeah, the Spurs probably.
Like, obviously, the big fundamental. And then, I don't know volume. Like, was Manu 2 or 3 in the pecking order? Or did that kind of vary? You know what I mean?
So what about the 2019 Raptors? Who would we consider the second option for that team?
Lowry.
I don't disagree, but would the numbers say that it's Siakam? I don't remember specifically from that run. I'm just curious.
Well, but even then, he was like a fucking Wile E. Coyote tornado in the paint. You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't...
That's what I'm saying. So, like, if you consider him the second option,
right,
then it's him and Kawhi who were the last two, like, predominantly inside the arc scorers to win a championship.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, and Kyle Lowry's thing during that run, I think, was that he was, like, awesome from 3.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So then, to your point, it kind of fucks it up. So we'll just say Siakam. So that way you're right. Or wait, no, do you want to be wrong so that you can say that the...
I don't know.
We already said the Spurs.
I don't know what I want to be. Because my whole thing is like, I think it's really hard to do that. I think that's like a inherently, just by the nature of today's NBA from a strictly math perspective, I think that's inherently more difficult to win a championship when your 2 stars are predominantly inside the arc guys. Granted, I think, honestly, I'm not sure how much water this holds at this point, considering both Shea and J-Dub have improved as 3-point shooters, and the volume is getting to a place where you can't slight, even though they are predominantly inside the arc, you can't like demerit them because they're not shooting enough threes. Their volume is at a point now where it's like, oh, we can't just say that teams can't load up against you inside the arc, you know. You make the analogy of like taking on water, or however you phrased it. You said something about water. And that said, you're a professional, man. Because what I was going to say is, if you're Oklahoma City and you don't want Brandon Ingram, and you view him as like the ship has been punctured, we're taking on water. I think Oklahoma City, to your point, everything that you just said, has enough dudes around him to shovel out the water. So it's like, even if he eats 15 shots a night, some nights, 9 of them are going to go in. You're like, it's fucking awesome. But some of the nights, 4 of them go in, and you're like, you can't even get in that deep of a hole because of how good everybody else is around him to get them. He checks out, and it's like, all right, let's fix this. Let's remedy this. You get what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't even think it would be that bad. So I think what this comes down to is, I think there's a point that a team gets to where, and there are very few teams that ever get to this point. The Celtics are at this point. I think the Thunder at this point. And it also ties in with Giannis, funny enough, where you are a good enough of a team, and I'm going to bring this back to Giannis, so bear with me. You become good enough to where, like, the idea of trading for anybody, more or less regardless of who that player is, it's like, we like our guys. Like, yeah, we could put together this ridiculous package and go get that other guy, but we like our guys versus your guys, and we're going to run with that. And like, you look at Rockets fans, who there were the Giannis trade thing when the Bucks were bad early on in the season, and there were the reports that were like, the Rockets have shown interest in Giannis, and Rockets fans were like, we don't want Giannis. And in some ways, I think that's ridiculous, but I do think that there's a time that a team will reach where it's like, no, I don't want to ship out the good vibes that this team has, and also the just quality play that you're getting from the guys that you have, just so you can yeah, you could get more talent, but like, how much talent do you realistically need? And then you're going to mess up all the chemistry. You're going to mess up all the vibes. You're going to piss some guys off. You're going to mess the money up. It's like, you don't need to do it. So like, I look at a guy like Brandon Ingram, and if there was a threshold of like player that would make me be like, yeah, we'll ship out one of Chet or J-Dub or, Kaysen, whatever, what have you, put together a wild package to get this player. Whatever that threshold is, I don't think Brandon Ingram is there. He's not at that threshold for me, personally. This is going to seem like a hard zag, and it's going to sound like I wasn't listening to anything that you said, but it's because I was listening to what you said that you're talking about Kayson Wallace. Kayson? Potato, I think. I've always heard Kayson. Okay. Who was the kid from Purdue who got drafted by the Celtics? Carson. He was a wrestler. That was a big thing. The dude was a bulldog. It was Carson something. I hated him. It's not Carson Wallace. I'm just thinking of Kayson Wallace. Rudy, do you know who we're talking about? Because Alex, I can see that you know who I'm talking about. Yeah, I can't think of his name. Because he played in Detroit for like 15 games, and it was Steve Blake all over again. I just didn't know. I to this day have no idea how the Pistons season ended because I would not watch. Carson Edwards. Oh, and it was Carsen too. Scumbag.
That's why my Google didn't work.
Oh.
He's out of the league in like 3 years. Bum. Stunk. Purdue does not produce good basketball players. Sorry, Rudy. I hate to say that to you. They don't. How's he been? How's ankleless Shrek been for those since we last recorded
Still
the
hurt.
show.
Still hurt. He was
He's
recently
still hurt.
sent down to the G League to practice. He will return to Memphis practice tomorrow. Last I checked.
Still in the swamp.
So, yeah, Zach Edey still in the swamp indeed.
So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're all good. I want to revisit what you were saying about Brandon Ingram, less in terms of like the caliber of player and the continuity issue, right? Because that balance, striking that, or rather risking that for Brandon Ingram, I agree, is a little needless. But when you do have a guy who is of that certain ilk where it is worthy to take on his little issue here and there with how you might have to build your team to make up for his deficiencies, I don't mind the 3-point shot not being there. I was texting this podcast, New Baltimore, Jacob R. Buckets, about this early last week over the break. And I thought, a little thought experiment I like to run once in a while. I was trying to check my bias and my fandom and be like, okay, if the Grizzlies were on crack and traded Ja Morant for this player, how upset would I be? And the test subject in this case was LaMelo Ball. And I thought, you know what, I would be upset. I do think it would put us in a worse place. And thus, I do think Ja Morant is sincerely better. And the reason, even though LaMelo Ball is a very good playmaker and an electric 3-point shooter and one of the best scorers in the NBA right now, I think that Ja's passing, his playmaking ability, his feel for the game, basketball IQ, what I can call it, is so much better than LaMelo Ball that I would prefer that. So even though
is this just a Ja is better than LaMelo?
I would still take Ja over LaMelo for that reason. So with a guy like Brandon Ingram, not a 3-point shooter. Guy like Ja Morant, also not a 3-point shooter, but way fucking better and has more plug and play skills. You can build a team around Ja Morant. Can't do it around Brandon Ingram, and maybe not LaMelo Ball either, because he's so hurt and loves to dribble and shoot more than he likes to pass as a point guard. I've kind of come full circle opposite of Voldemort's stance on the true point guard. I'm like, yeah, you need a facilitator. Give me Rondo. Give me Ben Simmons.
What kind of passer do you think LaMelo? What? I'm so confused. What is your perception of LaMelo as a playmaker / passer?
Like Damian Lillard-esque. Good.
Oh, I think he's a much better passer than Damian Lillard, like comfortably.
Interesting. I just know that, especially after seeing a little B-ball index tweet giving me all the imaginary stats I need to confirm my opinion. It had like Ja Morant in the 100th and 99th percentile and everything passing related, and I was like, aha, yes.
Well, I'm not talking about Ja.
Right. I know.
I'm just saying
that's my point of comparison. It's like, sure, LaMelo 3-point ball, yes, but 100th percentile passer, no.
Well, yeah, I don't disagree with that. I still think, yeah, Ja is for now better than LaMelo. I don't know why you chose this random comparison to be like, yeah, LaMelo sucks.
It was just at the top of my brain. I had to get that off during this podcast. I made a little tweet about it. I was like, I gotta remember to bring this up as expeditiously as possible on the podcast. And sure enough, at about the 55-minute and 55-second mark, that is where my opportunity was. So
I'd love to wrap up on this. And next week, when Jacob's back from Manhattan, because he was in Manhattan killing the CEO.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I'd love to ask him this question. But I'll just ask it to the panel for now. If you could trade for any player in the last 10 years, like that, a specific year iteration of this, but don't say fucking LeBron or something dumb, like, try to be realistic about this. For your team today, who would it be? So just to give you an example of what I'm asking here, I would, for the Pistons, I want I don't think it's a Kyle Lowry or a Mike Conley, like a 2019 Kyle Lowry, or maybe like a 2016 Mike Conley, something like that. Well, that money, I don't want that. Well, that contract actually that he signed back then when he was the highest paid player in today's terms actually wouldn't have even been that bad. But like one of those two guys, I think is who, which I don't even think is the right answer. I think I should probably maybe Joakim Noah. Ooh, imagine Joakim Noah on this team. Ooh. from like
I love all
13
three
years
players
ago.
you've said, but maybe I'm just bad at listening. Can you give me the most simplified version of your prompt here? You saying, who do I want to add to my team, consequence free, from my childhood past that I love so much?
From
like
the
Joakim
last
Noah
10 years, player and the year that, like, the iteration of them.
Gotcha.
That if you added them to your current team today, it would turn you into not like a title favorite, but you think that it would improve the team. So I said, like a 19 Lowry, a 16 Mike Conley, maybe a 2011 Joakim Noah, something like that, I think would turn Detroit into something even greater.
This is a great question.
So great, I had to fucking ask it twice.
Mm-hmm. I just had to make sure that we were on the same page. I didn't want to give you some invalid answer. Ah, God. Can I say 2K Gerald Green?
Love it. That's perfect. Yeah, that counts. Sure, that counts. I was going to make a Luke Babbitt joke, so yeah, you nailed it.
Dude, 2K Luke Babbitt is
Bucket.
ice.
Bucket.
I'm tempted to say like let me see which year he was better. I'm tempted to say like a prime, maybe this year. Yeah, probably this year. But that 2021, 2022 Darius Garland on the Thunder.
Whoa. You'd want him for this Thunder team?
I would love to have Darius Garland on this Thunder team.
Why?
So we don't really have we still don't really have like a lob passer. A guy that like can consistent, like Shea can run the pick and roll. Jalen Williams can do that too. We don't have a guy who like you can really just go like spread pick and roll like Isaiah Hartenstein. Imagine Darius Garland, Isaiah Hartenstein, and then you've got Chet, J-Dub, and Shea on the wing. Like, goodness gracious.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
To me, that's just like, how do you stop that?
Yeah, run one of these for our visual, for our audio only listeners. I'm putting up a horns right now. Run a little horns action with those guys. You like that, Alex? I've been
now
studying.
Now we're talking. Getting in the
weeds.
It was
funny. I was watching Michigan State, North Carolina, which, by the way, we actually won. My whole life, North Carolina has been like one of the many boogeymen to Michigan State. We do not beat North Carolina. We kick the shit out of them, though. Like, we're fine this year. Like, we might be pretty good. North Carolina stinks. And I identified a horn set in real time. I love when that happens. I like watch the two dudes come up. I was like, that's a horn set. I don't remember who was on the call. They're like, Michigan State running some horns action here. I said, we're saying the same damn thing at home. Yes, they are, ladies and
gentlemen. You read my mind.
Yeah.
That's a good feeling when so I've been trying to be better about taking notes during games lately. Because I like have thoughts during games when I'm watching them and then I forget them and then it never makes it into a video or anything. And it's always nice when I like think of something and write it down, and then as I'm writing it down, I'll hear the commentator say it, and I'm like,
yeah,
I beat you to it there, buddy.
Dude, I'd love to compare. So every now and then I'll do like a notes app for like an NFL Sunday or something, just so, because you spend fucking 8 hours watching football, and by the time you're taping the show at night, it's like, what happened in the 1:00 game? You know what I mean? So I just put down really stupid little notes. And just because it's like shorthand, but in digital form. Mm-hmm. And so like if I'm doing that for a basketball game, my notes will just be something like shorts too long, look dumb, or something like that. You know who actually fashion wise is the exception to that rule? Who's the kid from
Trey Man?
Holy shit, he looks awesome.
Yeah.
Like his on-court fashion is so. I do not want the 2000s era on-court fashion, or off-court for that fucking matter, to come back in any way. I do not want it to come back. One day it will, though, right? Trey Man looks so cool when he plays basketball. He looks awesome. Yeah.
Definition of aura.
Facts.
Yeah. Hornets need him back just to sell tickets for the Trey Man show. I'm compelled to admit, just seeing the disc eyeing me from behind you, Nick, that Charlie XCX was my most played artist this year.
Really?
Yeah, just from listening to Brett multiple times.
So I looked on Spotify Wrapped, the only thing I've looked at so far was you have like messages from each artist that is in your Wrapped. And to me, that wasn't a spoiler because I just don't know the order, but I can guess all of the ones that'll be in there. And it was literally like Taylor and Sabrina Carpenter and Chappell Roan and Charlie XCX. Fucking Jimmy Eat World. just because I listened to The Middle a lot this year. It just got stuck in my head a lot. And so I was like, what the fuck is Jimmy? Oh, yeah, The Middle. Right, of course. But yeah, it was like, it was just all of the like pop girlies. It's like all that it was. So I'm really excited to dive into it. Check out the next episode of The Coping Hour if you are interested in Motown Noah's Spotify Wrapped.
Speaking of Motown Noah, best podcast in the game or whatever. I don't know what your slogan is, so pardon me for butchering it.
Slogan? What, that we cover all the biggest stories and we cover them from all angles?
There we go. It was
close.
In my brain, just not at the top.
Yeah.
Your reaction to the Bears was everything I needed. That was so funny.
Oh, I'm going to have to go watch that.
The
Dude.
Bears just running out the clock more kind of in field goal range with 30 seconds on the clock and a timeout. Awesome. It was
Matt Eberflus gets fired. He will have that timeout for the rest of his life. For the rest of his life. It's like you at home, even if you weren't a Lions fan, you're not a Bears fan, you're just watching it because it's the first Thanksgiving game. You're with your family. Families around the country could not believe what the fuck just happened.
No, I think the earth actually stopped spinning for a moment.
Yeah.
And the clock hit 0 and everyone's like, whoa.
Because it's like, yes, Caleb should have. There's so much nuance to this. Like, Caleb was not actually getting the play in time in his head, and so he just kind of he didn't get it till it was too late. So, like, nobody's blaming Caleb Williams at all. It's like at least a little bit his fault. But the overarching thing is that Matt Eberflus sees his rookie quarterback not doing anything with still like 15 seconds left. Call the fucking timeout, and he didn't. Caleb's just sitting there like fixing his armband. It's like, snap the ball. Nope, that was it. And then Matt Eberflus post game is like, I actually liked what we did. It just didn't work. He just like didn't own it at all. He fucking rules. That guy is awesome. So yeah, shout out to the Bears for just being the Bears. Shout out to the Lions for by the time you listen to this, it'll already have happened, but playing the Packers on Thursday night at home. Does this look like the face of a guy who's worried?
For audio listeners, yes, it does.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about that. We'll see how it goes, though.
Man,
Now,
if it
we
wasn't
have
for
to
the
talk to our
Chiefs,
audio listeners
the Lions are
ASAP.
winning a Super Bowl this year.
You think it's the Chiefs that we got to be worried? I think it's the Eagles. I'm
Come
fucking
on.
scared of the Eagles.
What are you doing?
I'm so scared of the
You
Eagles.
really think another team is gonna beat the Chiefs? I don't care what their record is. I don't care what the advanced numbers say.
Oh, brother, I
don't
know.
care. It's the Chiefs. They're gonna win the Super Bowl.
Deal with the devil, dark magic every single week. It does not matter. They just find ways to win, right? I don't disagree with you at all.
Ways to win, yes.
Yeah, for sure. A week ago, or not a week ago, sorry, a year ago, we spent the whole year being like, it's over for the Chiefs. It was the same shit that they're doing this year where they were just like barely winning games. Some of them they actually lost, right? And people kind of wrote him off. Patrick Mahomes was having a down year, like he wasn't putting up these gaudy numbers, and then they still won the Super Bowl. You would have thought that people would have learned their lessons. It's the same story this year. Patrick Mahomes just does everything that he needs to at the exact right time without, again, putting up those gaudy numbers. He's done the 5,000 yards in a season thing. He's done 45 touchdowns in a season. Right now, it's just like, when will be the most opportune time for me to do my little 3rd and 6 scramble for a first down in a moment where my team really, really needs it? Or, I don't know, man. And even then, though, how about the Bills? I mean, the Bills beat them this year. Josh Allen, Amari Cooper doing backyard football shit on Monday night. Josh Allen on Monday night, he had a touchdown pass. He threw a touchdown pass, had a receiving touchdown, and a rushing touchdown. First quarterback in NFL history to do that. I don't know.
Is Josh Allen the MVP?
Right now, it's either him or Saquon. I think if Saquon breaks the rushing record, which he's on pace to do, if he does that, I think you have to give it to him. But if he doesn't, I don't care what happens. I think as long as Josh Allen, also keeps on the same pace, I think it has to be Josh Allen.
Who was the last running back to win MVP? Was it AP?
Sean Alexander?
Surely Adrian Peterson won one.
I think.
Did Adrian Peterson win one?
He had to have.
Yeah, he won one.
Okay,
Come on, guys.
okay.
Talking to a Vikings fan here. Come on.
So I guess.
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah. Dalvin Cook had like 3 200-yard games in 2020. What the fuck?
Was he on the
Speaking of the
Jets?
Vikings. He did. I just thought Alex would have a response to that. I think he's too deep.
Sorry,
in his research right now.
I was doing my research. Adrian Peterson is the last running back
There it
to win
is.
MVP.
Nice. Yeah. It's him. If like Derrick Henry to me is like one of the most fun running backs I've ever. I just love watching Derrick Henry run the ball. It's like him and Adrian Peterson. It was the other one, and that's another guy. We talk about Giannis and being like how your team is terrified or terrorized by this guy your whole fucking life. Dude, when Adrian Peterson finally like beat his kid with a switch and fucked off, I was so happy. So I was like, oh my God, the boogeyman is dead. And then he came to Detroit and was actually like really fun. Like it was like, he kind of went on like this, he was bouncing around. He just was like on a new team every year. He played for the Titans for a year, maybe just like a couple games. But yeah, shout out to Adrian Peterson, man.
Fucking Adrian
He's trying to make a
Peterson.
comeback. Did y'all see that?
Is he really?
He said there was something that came out that was like, Adrian Peterson's working out for an NFL team. It was like, when I saw John Wall at Summer League, and then I saw a report 2 hours later that was like he's working out for the Warriors, and then nothing else came of it. It's like one of those where they're just doing the nice thing and giving the guy a workout, but he's not coming back.
Got to maintain that agent relationship.
Yeah.
Throw the desperation bone here and there.
John Wall's paid anyways at this point. He doesn't need it.
He could take the OJ Mayo route and just go like lead Egypt to a championship.
Yeah.
Or whatever,
Yeah. Did you guys see Pat Bev might come home?
Is he finally getting scared?
Yeah. His partner, his fiance, wife, whatever it is, they're like, hey, maybe stop playing basketball
I finally
in Israel.
read enough tweets.
Yeah. I read enough Reuters, and I think it's time for you to shout out to Reuters. Don't disparage. I have notifications on. That's how I found out about the damn CEO getting shot in the head.
I'll say it. Why the fuck is it Reuters? I know it's Reuters. I know it's always been Reuters. But back when I was like a sophomore in high school and started reading little mags and starting to get my adult on in a little baby way, in my mind, Reuters was just like one of them ones that just made sense.
Yeah.
But then I heard people say it out
Reuters.
loud. I'm like, what the why is this? How does a U make a Y sound? What's the origin of this?
Yeah.
I was just laughing because
I don't
Nick
understand
said he got
Reuters
the
at all.
Reuters notification on his phone. And I was like, that's the most old man thing I've ever heard.
I love Reuters. That's also how I found out yesterday about the all the shit going on in South Korea. Did you guys see this? You hear about this?
Oh, that's wild. I'm not going to speak on it because I don't know like what's going on. But yeah, it sounds like a lot of stuff going on over there.
It's funny
Yeah,
as
my
fuck
Wi-Fi
is
got
what it
bad for a
is.
second
The
or something. I don't know
damn
what happened.
South Korean president live streamed himself. YouTube live streamed himself, like jumping over a military blockade to like get back into like his house or some shit. I don't remember exactly where he was going, but he's just like on camera, like breaking the law on his phone. Like he's just really funny. He calls for like martial law because these opposition groups are like, they keep trying to impeach him for like corruption. And
Are we
then
talking
he's
about
like,
South Korea right now? I lagged out for like a full 20 seconds.
we sure are, Rudy.
Man,
And
what a turn.
So they're like, he imposes an emergency martial law, and then the military shows up. They like basically knock on the door, and then they just get turned away. They're like, all right, well, we'll leave. There was another funny piece of this that I'm blanking on right now. Yeah, and then he kept calling